She's got
Okay.
to sit before.
I'll let you start this.
Well, we need to do call to order. We need to do the call to order and the adoption of the agenda as well.
All right, call to order, please, and for the adoption of the agenda for budget workshop.
So move we adopt the agenda.
Second.
Budget workshop.
Moved and second, all in favor? Okay.
Okay, I have been working on this budget, quite a bit the last 2 weeks, trying to get us some information together and update some spreadsheets that I've worked on. This is like, I think this is my actual second time that I've submitted it to council. And the main reason I needed to call this meeting today for a budget workshop, because we need to get a millage rate established. And I have based the current budget, the upcoming budget for 2019 on the proposed millage rate of 16.098, which is, excuse me, is just a little bit different than it was last year, because last year it was 16.110. This does increase our revenue just a little bit. It increases it by $1,660. So that's what I'm proposing to do with this budget. Been trying to tweak a few things, get it together, get the personnel that we need in the appropriate departments, and trying to move forward to do some things with this. I actually have gone through and looked at a couple of things, and one thing that I had tried to find out is reassessments for this area. I'm not sure when reassessments were done. I've contacted the tax assessor's office, but he's not available to get with me on this at this point. Normally, what would happen is the assessors would come out every 3 to 5 years and reassess property. My understanding is it has not been done here in a long time, and it's not just Sky Valley, it's countywide. So I'm questioning why the assessors is not, reaching out to get that done. So I am questioning that part from the county.
I thought they did it about 3 years.
He does different areas, just certain areas,
There
not the whole city, but certain areas.
And we're not asking for him to come and reassess, let me emphasize that. I just want to know why are they not actually picking up some things when homes sell. It's been my understanding that normal practice in Rayburn County, and it should be, is that when a home sells, that's the value that is placed on it normally. That's not happening, and I'm questioning why that is not happening sometimes. Sometimes it's better for the individual, sometimes it's not, but we're in this to have revenue, and that is our main source of revenue, so I just want to stay on top of that one for sure. I actually, sort of, when I went through my budget, looking at a few things, there were some things that sort of popped out in my mind that going through the last couple of years that I've been here, that I've seen some increases in. I've made some notes, and I sort of just want to go through the budget that I have presented to them, to mayor and council for consideration. And I just want to let them know what is going on with this. And please feel free to ask questions if you have questions about some of the information that I'm putting out here. And I have this set up as a budget is supposed to be per fund, and it's also set up per department. So I'll just go through each one and give you a little bit of synopsis of, what is going on and why this is so important that we move forward with this to get this established.
Need to do it right away.
Yes, sir. I have deadlines. We need to get tax bills out. And right now I'm proposing that we set the millage rate, and we cannot do it at this meeting, but I have to publicize this a week prior to hearing it. So I'm trying to get this scheduled so we could have a special call meeting on October the 25th to be able to vote on this tax millage rate so we can get tax bills out by the end of the month. I know that just made y'all's day, so. But they'll be due somewhere about the end of December like they normally are. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that part of it. Also too, just going through some of my notes here. The one thing that I would like to emphasize, because this is one of the strong points that I have a lot of experience with, we are not able to utilize the grants that we should be able to due to our SDS not being in compliance. I would, and I know they're working on it and we hope to get that worked out, but we are losing money because of that. And I think it's critical at this point with revenues being the way they are that we actually try and get this worked out so we can get more grants. You know, like the LMIG, we lost over $30,000 over the last several years because we could not get it. That's a lot of money. They come in, they do the paving, and you're done. So that's really critical to us, with us being such a small city. And I'd really like to emphasize that if we were able to get more grants, I'll be going after everything I can get, because there is a lot of money out there if you're willing to put the time into it. Another issue that has been brought to my attention, and this is one thing that I took over right when I came here, was the workers' compensation and general liability and the vehicle insurance. It went up a substantial amount in 2017, and now Georgia Municipal Association, who our insurance is through, is telling us that, excuse me, that it is going to increase in 2018 as well. They've already given us projected amounts, which they're not saying they cannot change, but they've already given us projected amounts, and I have included them in the 2019 budget. Another thing I'd like to emphasize too is our budget is at least, if not more than, 50% of salaries and benefits. And people don't realize, unless you've run a business and unless you have to deal with this on a day-to-day basis, that is pretty substantial. That's something that we really need to, keep going on, because we want to make sure that we have good people working for us, and we do. We have a really good crew. Everybody has pitched in, helped out, done anything they can, trying to move forward and trying to keep things going. And I just want to make sure that they're very well taken care of. I think that's important at this point. And getting into that, and I'm not sure that all of you know this, but we are currently on Obamacare. And I don't know if any of y'all have ever utilized that, but it is really bad. And I am actually meeting with our insurance gentleman, our representative, in the morning. He plans to give us some ideas that we can get off of this. That will be better for employees, and overall, it could save us money if we can get something that he can establish us with. I'll get out more information on that once I meet with him tomorrow, but right now, I've put the amounts in that we have projected with what we had. So hopefully, we can get those down too and bring it, even better in line. Trying to do what we can. There's certain things that we did increase, but we're just trying to move forward with it, with what we've got, because I need to get this thing done. I just go through each department, and I have some highlighted items in each one that I just want to bring to y'all's attention. One thing that stood out in my mind is going through this, when I started looking at, for instance, salary in administration. My budget amount was $120,500, and I'm like, whoa. My estimated for the year, projected, anticipated, is $156,000. So I got back and I started looking at some of this. Some of this had to do with the severance package that we did have to pay out. Yes, she was already going to be included in the salary, but there was a little bit more that we had to pay out that would have not been anticipated at that point. So that's one thing. Another thing that, I'm actually on page 3. That's why I numbered this. I can tell y'all exactly where to go. I thought that would help.
Where's the number?
Yours does not have one.
You have to count.
Okay. Okay, and the one thing, another thing that showed up, is professional services. This is attorney fees. Our attorney fees are going to be from now on. When you have an attorney that's full-time, you utilize them a lot more than when you just have somebody on a will-call basis. And Doug has been really good to help us out whenever we've needed help, so, we'll be continuing with that one. Another thing is communications. Communications, does have an increase in it due to adding smartphones. Previously, we didn't have any way to communicate except through our personal cell phones, which if you all know that when you have a personal cell phone and you use it for government business, that makes it, anything you do on that phone, open to, subject to open records. And that is not a good way to operate a business, especially a government business. So we do, department heads do have cell phones now that we can communicate with. They are push to talk, and we also communicate with everyone in our department. Like yesterday, I had one of the guys that is out. He called me, just to say thank you, on that. He just wanted to let us know what was going on. Another thing, the next one I have is the police department. Our regular employees, it includes one additional officer that is, this is fully staffing the police department. This is the chief and 4 officers. Again, workers' comp will increase with the additional officer. Also, I have increased the small equipment. We need to get our police department up to date. We need to see about getting them some new guns, evidence storage, and also we're anticipating is trying to expand their office a little bit since they're going to be in their current situation. And I encourage you all to stop by if you've never been to the police department and see what they're working in. We get a couple more officers, we're going to need a little bit more room. So I'd like for y'all to go by, and I really encourage you to stop and look. If I'm there, I'll show you. If the chief's there, he can show you, but to show you what we're looking at doing. Because this is one thing, public safety, to me, should be one of our #1 issues in Sky Valley, because we want to keep our citizens safe. So that's one thing I have noted as well. My next item is the roads. The roads, we are adding an additional labor, and also too, and this is something that we do quite often, like in James' case, where he works in roads, he works in water, and he also works in solid waste. We're splitting him up 3 ways. That is a common practice in municipal government, because when you've got somebody that is over the departments, you're able to split them out and can actually adjust your budget more accurately, and it gives you a true picture of where he is being utilized. The other thing that is increased is roads and maintenance by others. This includes some additional tree trimming. Some of the trees that we need to have trimmed, our guys can't reach. Even with a bucket truck, they can't reach. So we need to be able to get with some of our local people that can come out that have power lifts on their buckets to be able to trim some of these trees. Another thing is road repairs. We have a few roads that if we do not do paving, they're going to need some attention. They can't wait much longer. We've got a couple of areas that James and I went and looked at the other day that are going to have to be done. We cannot wait another year to get them done, because they're to the point they're breaking down. I'm trying to go out and look at stuff. I'm a hands-on person. You'll find out. You'll see me outside looking. You're like, what is she doing? I'm one of these. I don't want to just hear something. I want to see what we're talking about and be able to say, yes, I went out and looked, and I think this is what we need to do. And James and I are working together with that to get out and make sure that things are happening the way they need to be happening. Also, special events, technical services, I'm like, what in the world is that? Why is it so high? That's for our fireworks display that we do every year for the 4th of July. That's something I know we're gonna continue because we really have a good turnout for that, so that is an item we'll continue to budget. Also, general materials and supplies, this is Fall Fest items. Normally in the past, there's been quite a bit of money that has been spent on Fall Fest. It is a good event and we're moving forward. We're actually going to be doing some advertising. I met with Debbie Martin yesterday from the Clayton Tribune. We plan to do some advertising in the Clayton Tribune, in Highlands and in Franklin next week. She just sent me a proof of the ad this morning, and we're gonna be, trying to get the word out to improve attendance with this festival, because we'd like to see it grow. We are moving it to the city park this year. I'm sure most of you have heard that we're moving it to the city park. We're looking for a new, the new location, a new setup. I think it's gonna go very well. I have about, I think it's 22 vendors at this point, including food vendors. So we're really pushing that along. I've had some good people working with me on marketing, getting the word out. Possibly the radio station will be coming in and doing a live broadcast for that as well. So I'm looking forward to that. Another thing is economic development. Nobody likes to do things you don't want to do, but overall, our visitor center has not been beneficial to the city. So therefore, our regular employee is only through the end of October, and this budget does not include an employee for the visitor center in next year. Another thing that we're doing is advertising. I've increased it for 2019 because I feel like we need to make our presence known a little better. We need to get in some more of the local publications, but we also need to reach out and do some, I feel like some local media, but we also need to get on the social network a little more and get a little bit more active. Chief Estes has already set up a Twitter account for the police department. I'll be setting one up for the city of Sky Valley, and continuing with another Facebook page, because those are critical in this day and age, and we need to be moving forward. We need to keep on top of this, and I think this is something we really need to make sure that we're on board with, and everybody pays attention to. When I send out email blasts, I'll start updating information where you can, if you're on Facebook, you can like our new page, our new Twitter accounts. I'll keep everybody up to date as we go forward with this.
When you say another Facebook page, what's wrong with them? I mean, we've had one for a while now.
Yes, sir. We've had one for a while, but we're not able to access it
Why is that?
because someone has taken it over and will not relinquish it.
That could be remedied.
Yeah, I was like to refer to as the attorney looking at that.
Okay.
I can send a letter.
Okay.
So that Facebook page was not a city Facebook page?
Well, I went back and found where we had paid for ads.
All right. I would suggest that, you handle that, Doug, find out the amount of money that we paid for the
Okay,
city
I can get
Facebook
you
page
that.
that we don't have.
Okay, moving forward, capital, is, we have $9,000 for the overlook fence. I actually stopped there last weekend before last, with family. And the fence is in dire need of some redoing. I'm afraid somebody's gonna get hurt, and I don't want them coming after us, so that's something we definitely are gonna be moving forward with. We have a new cage car, a lease for $7,000 for the police department for the next 5 years. A bucket truck, we right now have $50,000 budgeted for that. I really think that's a little excessive. I've talked to a couple of the guys. there's no need for us to go buy a brand new truck. We don't need it. It only gets used, what, a month out of the year, James, maybe?
Yeah.
I think that's really excessive, so I plan to just look at it, maybe a used one, and do something, you know, with that. There's no need to buy a brand new bucket truck. That would just be, to me, in my personal opinion, I think that would be a waste of the city of Valley taxpayer money. I think you don't need to do that.
Didn't we check on the existing one, and they said $12,000 would bring it back?
Yeah, but it's so old at this point, my experience with hydraulic lifts and bucket trucks, after a while, you're just throwing money down the drain, because you do one thing and it messes up something else on hydraulics, on cherry pickers, so you're better off not doing that.
So what you're doing, or what you're proposing, and James has something he wanted to say, is that we're basically putting fluid in to use it for whatever purpose we've got, and then put more
Right.
fluid in.
Right.
Which is a lot cheaper than.
You're just pouring it,
Right.
you're just almost pouring it on the ground, James, isn't that
It
correct?
It is, and like Bob was saying, it was like $12,000 to fix the hydraulic thing. You know, they have to replace all the hosing in it and everything. Also, the brakes are outdated. It's another $5,000 to fix the brake system. It has an emergency brake system that keeps it moving when it's up in the air. And it's bad.
You're up to 17,000.
No, I haven't.
That'd be $17,000 to fix it.
When you're using it, as you have on Bald Mountain, and you're losing fluid, are you checking that during the course of a workday?
Yes.
Because if you don't, it could be an unsafe condition, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's checked every 2 hours when we have it out.
We also need to look into if we could possibly rent what we need.
Okay.
Yes.
I
If
can
we
check
use it
that
that
out.
little, you know, if we could get one, just
Yeah.
rent it.
Just rent it,
Well, if they
okay,
can find it.
and not have it, that's fine, we can do that too.
We could also, the lights that go up and Christmas lights and all, it might be cheaper to sub that out to somebody that already has a bucket truck and their license is insured, and they go out and probably do it in a couple of days.
I'm sure James and his group would not mind that at all.
I'm good for that.
Okay, all right,
Those are
we'll
all
look into
things we
that,
can look into.
okay?
Yeah.
Well, we got a good budget number there, and if
Right.
we could save money on this budget number.
Yeah,
we could-
definitely, we want to do that. Another thing is, we need to replace the existing backhoe with the excavator, so, and the way it's set up in the budget is, a portion of it is $4,000 out of the general fund budget. And moving on, the enterprise fund, water, I have proposed, I've been looking at the rates. And I probably will propose some changes even more different next year, because the way our rate schedule is set up is not very, it's just not very good. I mean, it needs to be updated. So my proposal is for this year, is to increase water rates by $5 per account. We have 648 accounts. That would give us an increased revenue of $3,240 per month, and it would also give us $38,880 increase per year, with just everybody's paying $5 more. And we need this because the cost of maintaining water lines, wells, has increased drastically. We have a lot of requirements that we have to keep up with. We do contract our testing out. We have a gentleman that lives in Tiger that comes in and does that for us. But we also need to be thinking about the future and what else are we gonna have to do. If we have a major well go out, that can get rather expensive, so I don't want us to be caught with not having funds to do something if something like that happens. So that's one reason I'd like to propose that.
James, do you have a chart or something when how often the tanks have to be totally drained and scrubbed down and washed and recoated?
No, sir, I have nothing, Linda had all that. and-
I have
That- That's
I have that, yes.
we need to get that
We need
charted
to
out.
get, we need to get that
Let's pick it
started
up.
because I think it's every 3 years they have to do that, I'll
I thought
double
it
check.
was fine.
Yeah, I think it's every 3, because
Okay.
they changed that, but I will double check on that to be sure.
It was fine,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, capital outlay, we need to replace the F-150, the 2009 F-150. That's the small Ford truck that we have, the small pickup. And we've got $30,000 allocated for that. And the reason why it's $30,000, we really need something that has is four-door, so our guys can get in and out of. I look at James' truck sometimes, and he's got people in the back seat of his little truck, and they're packed in there like sardines, so I think we need to look at that as well. Our debt services is $126,555. This is our G-Fund payments that we have monthly. That is an annual amount. This was for the water system upgrades, which included the digital meters that we have now. As you know, they don't go read each meter individually now. Neil rides by with his computer, his laptop, and it automatically reads it for him. So that's what that is for. Solid waste and recycling, revenues need to be increased on this as well. Cost of vehicles and maintenance and just liability. You have to think about with these in-ground liners, liability is a lot more than if you have just a normal garbage pickup. And the reason I know this is because where I came from in Moultrie, we were the only other city in the state of Georgia that had in-ground liners. And we had to do away with them because our workers' comp was so bad, because we had so many. We were hiring temp workers to go out and pick up our garbage because they could carry the general liability. And we don't want to get in that situation, so I want to make sure, and a lot of people don't utilize them anyway. They'll take it to the compactor, or they'll set, you'll set your garbage out by the road. So, it's nothing we've got to dig up and nothing we've got to maintain at this point. I just don't want us to get in the position that if we come up and garbage rate, our disposal fees go up sky high, because you never know. I don't want us to be caught, oh, we don't even have enough money coming in to pay for that. I don't want us to be in that position. So I'm proposing a revenue increase. We have currently, and I don't know where this came from, not sure, I've traced it back about I think it's been 2 different increases, and why these people were not increased, I don't know why. But we currently have some people that only pay $12 for garbage service. Well, for those of you that pay $23, you're like, why should they only get 12 and I have to pay 23? So what I'm proposing is that we increase these 172 accounts by $11. That gives us a $18.92 per month increase, and $18.92 times 12, that gives us an increased revenue of $22,704. I think this will get us where we need to be, because otherwise we're going to continue with adding an employee in the solid waste, which we dearly need. James needs the additional full-time person. We're going to get into a position that we can't keep up with what we have.
Point of clarification, you're taking everyone to $34 a month, or you're bringing everyone up to 23?
Everyone up to 23.
Thank you.
It's 172 people that will be affected by it. Yes, ma'am.
I know why you have a difference. In the beginning, some people, myself included, used to put out plastic garbage bags to be picked up until the goat and the dog from the farm across the way came down my street and found my garbage bags. And then I went out and bought the largest garbage can you can find. But that it was cheaper to put out plastic bags. I don't mean to interrupt you,
Oh,
but
no,
that
no,
was,
that's
that
fine.
was the
I'm
difference.
trying to figure out why
that's
has
the
this never,
difference.
why has this never been,
There
you
there
know,
was
upgraded?
there was a backdoor service or something.
It's
at one
$30,
time.
you know, we
That's
still
$30.
have that.
Well, I just, a quick question for James, that doesn't make sense on workers' comp and the cans in the ground, and I remember a study was done
We stopped.
quite a long time ago, but some people still use it. I mean, they use
Right.
it. I mean, do animals get into those cans in the ground?
Yeah.
In other words, is it something that's attracting our bears in
Yeah.
here?
It is.
That may be something that could be addressed with, the, you know, with,
Raccoons more than anything.
well,
Snakes.
yeah, whatever's getting into it.
It sounds like they're no more secure than any other facility.
Oh,
No, no, unless you got bear-proof containers up here,
Yeah.
and bear-proof containers are expensive. They are very
It
expensive.
needs to be, the
Right, but
garbage is not put out until the
Yeah, it needs to be
morning.
Right.
right, the morning of, that's the
Th- th-
thing.
Those
Or, and,
in ground containers, they'll get trash in them through the week.
Yeah,
They
they do.
contain-
Oh, yeah, I know.
Okay.
We sent out a notice telling everybody to discontinue using in-ground cans. It's been about 5 years ago
No, I mean, we
now.
just gave people the option, it wasn't, I mean, a lot of people don't wanna use them because they do fill up with water, they
Yeah.
rust, you have,
And they're a mess.
and it's your responsibility
But
because
maybe
it's your
it's
garbage can.
time to knock them off totally because they're a danger. I've opened mine years ago and a
Mhm.
snake was in there.
Yeah, and bees nests and everything else, so.
Anyway, excuse me for interrupting.
That's fine, that's fine.
They're a mess.
This also, this budget includes, regular employees, and again, a third of James is out of this budget. And 2 other employees plus the 1 new employee, for solid waste and recycling. And also a portion of the, backhoe replacement for the excavator is $4,000 on this. I sort of went through what I have. If any of you have questions, have comments, I also included some graphs with this that show the different rates that we have, to give you some idea. And this is the number of customers that we have. And you'll see here this garbage fee where people pay $12. This is on page 13. Sorry. You'll see this says 32. Well, when you break down this 32, there are several accounts that have more than just one. Some of them have up to 48 accounts on that. That's why it only shows the 32 there. So I wanted to clarify that. Do you have any questions? Tried to give you a synopsis and not overload you with this information. You know, I tried to give you what beginning balances would be in each fund and what they will be at the end, to give you some idea of where we're at.
Okay, you're talking about all categories now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. I just have a couple of things that I wanted to say. And that was, hopefully, you brought up the increasing cost of the disposal fees. As you spoke about, SDS has not been worked out yet. It was supposed to be in mediation last month on the 17th, and I don't know that that was what happened in that, you know, I know that they canceled it, and I don't know that it's been rescheduled. However, once SDS is ironed out, we hope that these disposal fees will be addressed in that, and so we'll get a substantial
Oh, yeah.
decrease, if not a total decrease,
That would.
or totally do away with our tipping fees, as they call it, which is the disposal fee, so that will be certainly a big help. The other thing, we don't have time to do it right now, this is across the board. You and I have talked about some, and that is our tax asset detail, which is basically a depreciation schedule for the equipment. And I would like for us in the following year to work on reevaluating all the city assets, from vehicles down to pumps in the water department and so forth, assigning them a true useful life and
Okay.
putting a realistic number onto these items, because it seems to be when we need a backhoe or we need a truck, we're having to include it into our everyday operating budget, because we really don't have the money set aside through the depreciation schedule over a period of time.
Yes, sir.
And I think if we can work on that, then the only impact to the regular operating budget would be the difference in what we've saved in our depreciation schedule,
Right.
and versus what maybe a new cost, being if a backhoe was $50,000 5 years ago and it's $60,000. If we depreciated that 50 properly, all we're doing is adding 10 out of our budget,
Right.
because the 50 is set aside. And I think that will put the city in a much more comfortable position, and also know pretty close
And
where we are.
And one thing too, with our depreciation, and I don't know how y'all feel about this, but, with your depreciation, would y'all be interested in setting it aside in a special account? That would be my recommendation.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I think we got into the situation, like with some of the things that we tried to find, things have not been separated like they should have been, so we can track stuff.
Isn't that what we set up and voted to do
Well,
this
if
year
you remember,
already?
I went
Is it
through the
council?
budget at the first of the year and took each one of you, and we spoke about that. And I think I used, in one of my analogies, was basically all we have is a huge pile of cash over here. And as she's saying, that big pile of cash, which is just being spoke of many times, that we have so many hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank, well, it's true.
Right.
But until you start separating it down, such as, in this particular document that was created, saying that we had unrestricted funds of $604,000. Well, that's not really true. We do have the $604,000, but when you take away the amount owed to buy capital assets of $16,000, the emergency reserves required by the municipal association of $300,000, and current depreciation, that left us in this particular document with $57,000 worth of unrestricted assets to take care of anything new that came up throughout the whole year. Not very much to do with there, and so
Right.
we need to work on that a little bit.
Plus the 300,000 that you're referring to is the bare minimum, which would probably be at least a good idea to double that.
Well, that was actually what former Mayor Goodgame, his proposal was always to keep 600,000 in there. It had to be dropped to 300, because if you put a 600 in there, well, now we're at a negative
Right.
$357,000, or excuse me, that's even a negative 300,000. So,
That's allowing for what should have been in the depreciation account and reserve for that.
well,
What you
no,
talking
that's just
about?
saying, changing, in this particular document, you'll see what's called the emergency fund reserve, which is required to be,
I'm not talking about the 300,000.
you're talking about this depreciation
Yes.
fund,
Yes.
and that actually is only what has been accounted for. And my point is, Neil, in the tax asset detail,
That it's
such as,
not realistic in
Not-
some
well,
certain areas.
in this particular scenario, the police cars are being depreciated with a useful life of 15 years.
I know. There are
So there's
some-
no way that those Subarus will last 15 years. So that's why I say a lot of this needs to be reevaluated. You know, pumps and so forth in the enterprise fund for water and so forth don't appear to be being appreciated here. So everything has
Right.
every item that the city owns has a useful life
Right.
and needs to be planned to be replaced at some point in time, and we need to plan for that on an annual basis rather than ending up with lump sums.
Right.
Um,
They get you in trouble.
Well, exactly. I mean, if we had to go replace 2 trucks and 3 water tanks next year, we have gone straight into emergency funds. And we should not be digging into emergency funds for those type purposes.
Right, right,
Not if we planned properly and we budgeted properly.
right.
So thank you, I just
You're
wanted to talk
welcome.
about that.
And also too, one thing I would like to stress, and I have put it in certain areas this year, and I did not do a whole lot trying to get the budget balanced. I would propose that we also include, a contingency in each division. Because if you do that, you protect yourself and each individual division, because if something comes up, not major, but something minor that you have, that you need to go get, like for instance with the telemetry on the wells that we just had to fix, you know, there was no line item, no extra little funds, you know, there was nothing established for something like that, so therefore, you know, I'll be doing a budget adjustment for that, which we had money to pay for it, but it should have been established under a contingency fund that you would be able to go do certain items like that.
Well, it left your anticipated fund balance less than what you expected it to be.
Right.
Because you didn't
Right.
pre-plan for it. I do have one other quick question too,
Okay.
and on the water fund, you have a tap-on fee that was not, there was no actual or year-to-date, through 18, we're showing, page number 8, line number 2, and we're showing 2,500,
Yeah, I
and
sort
then
of just,
$5 times 648.
that's my increase that I have there for water.
That's
But
the $5 a month.
That's the $5 a month, but the 2,500 I left in there because I'm wishing we'll get at least one house, a new house. We have somebody that is looking a lot. So
Well,
I'm trying to be optimistic with this and, you know, and give us a good standing with that. I mean, that's, you know, you never know.
Well,
The budget is a
Yes.
guess.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's just anticipated, you know, so we don't know, I feel like maybe they'll do something, we just don't even know.
well, I know I just sold a lot here a couple months ago. I know they've been involved with you to build a new house here, which is something that came across, and I think in 2017, we all agreed that new building permits would be, the fee would be waived. I'd almost propose to the council that we think about waiving the tap-on fee too. I mean, we need all the encouragement we can to build new here. And I know it'd be nice to have the $2,500 tap-on fee.
Right,
However, at the same time, I think we'd rather have the longevity of the new home. And of course, activity tends to breed activity.
right, definitely. I mean, that's something y'all.
2,500 just to, for tapping on?
Yeah,
You gotta buy the
Bring them
meter,
into
you
the
gotta
system?
install the meter, you gotta do the line, that's
Yeah.
a lot of work.
yeah.
It is.
And if there's not a
We don't
water
make
line
any
running
money
in
on
front of
that.
that property, you know, you have to run additional water line too. So
Right.
that's something else you have to think about. And if it's something James can't do, which I'm thinking he can do most of it, maybe with the new excavator it
Yeah.
would help.
Most of our lots have a tap valve there already, all we gotta do is set the meters and stuff, you set it.
Well, you're not making that money.
Most of every lot valve up here, or every lot has a water to it.
Yeah.
It's
And
there,
even-
all we gotta do is just set.
I mean, we could reduce it by 50%, would even help.
Well, I was gonna say, if we were, you know, at least if we became, cost neutral in it, where, you know, like you say, if a meter, I don't know what a meter costs, but what's a meter?
I
Anybody
don't
know
know, they
what
used to be
meter?
about $350, these are new electronic meters, I think
These
are
are
about
$800
5 or
to
$6
$1,000.
now.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah, we can get down and say, okay, this is what we
$1,000.
got hard money in installing your meter, instead of hitting you with a higher fee, just something that I think everybody would like to see consider.
Right,
Um,
okay. I mean, we can look at that, y'all tell me what you wanna do, and I'll adjust it accordingly, because we got, you know, we
I
can
don't
do
think we
that.
need to adjust it for this budget, we need to
No.
move ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So are y'all good with me going ahead and advertising the tax rate as it is?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so I'll do that, and then we'll do a special call meeting on the 25th. Is there any other questions?
Yes, you made a comment about a change of a full-time employee at the visitor center.
Yes, sir?
How else does the budget change based on the continuation of the visitor center? And how does that loss of the individual affect the visitor center?
Well, what it's gonna do, we're actually gonna have to leave it unmanned or close the actual visitor center part itself. What we've talked about doing is maybe bringing some of that information to City Hall. Right now, we don't have room for a lot of it, because our setup. But what we can do is, we can utilize it, leave the information there and leave a note if they have additional questions to contact us at City Hall. because like, with my anticipated budget, just giving me, let's see, that's about 15, 16, right at, to do a full year, I would estimate, if we did a full year, it would be, if we put it back in the budget, that's another $25,000 for benefits and
But isn't it
everything.
rather a stagnant asset at this point, once your permanent employee is gone?
Yeah, it is, I know.
Well, we do have, I've made a proposal to think about it, forming a committee to move City Hall to that location. And that hasn't been initiated because of all the things that have been going on recently. But it's an item I want us to address
Definitely.
and see what the costs and the trade-offs are to utilize that facility for the major access point to the city.
Right.
Is on that highway, 246.
Right, right.
And then you're just talking about the cramped spaces for police, and that's part of that projected idea to investigate further is to move police into the current city hall
Right, right,
and make a presence there.
right.
And also, people that travel into new locations and new cities, they always kind of locate either the Chamber of Commerce or the police department to give an introduction to the city, so we'd have two locations that people could
Right,
visit for visitor information and moving ahead.
right.
So with that idea, which I proposed at an earlier council meeting, to think about, should be, I think, pursued further to either a yes or a no,
Right,
and find out how we can best utilize that facility for the advertisement and projection of our city to the outside.
yes, sir, because we've got time since his, it's,
That's gonna be a 2-year study because we can't touch the building until, we move out the.
That's not true.
well, we can start
That's not
looking.
true.
He has a lease and he's got 2 more years.
Well, I know with that part of the building,
Well, if
but
you're
you
gonna,
phased in everything. You never do anything.
I'm
and,
not saying that,
turn
I'm
the
saying
switch.
that the study would be a 2-year study, but without doing anything to the building until we can do the whole thing.
Well, the whole thing, yes, but that's why we need a study and a phased-in study and the cost of all this. To do it at a minimal cost and maximize the effective use of our city employees.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think the one thing, Neil, that I'd like to comment on that is the fact, how many people own 2 houses? You own 2 houses, you got twice as much cost. Yes, there needs to be a plan, but I can tell you that economically, it doesn't make any sense unless we're gonna get rid of something until we get some growth going. So the economic development portion of the budget, somebody has to work on a plan there to get growth going. Till we got growth going, we don't have money to be in 2 places and have a grand office for the city and a grand office for the police. We need to rent out that other section that's in there and get some income off it and have 3 people that are renting in there.
That's your opinion.
That's my
I'm glad you
opinion.
struck it, and I'm not arguing with you. It's something that needs to be studied and integrated with all of that in mind. But until we get all our minds around it, it'll just flail. We'll all hear something.
Some kind of money.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to ask, do we have any cash reserve in the enterprise fund?
Yes.
How much?
I have a, retroactive with this year's proposed budget, I have a balance of $1,145,000 now. My actual reserve that I'm trying to think my revenue is,
Close enough.
I'm showing the remaining unrestricted assets after depreciation of $150,000 for emergencies and so forth. At this point, it's 625 of that figure. 625 is apparently, if this document's correct, of the million she's talking about, 625 is available.
any other questions, comments?
I got
Yes, sir.
one.
Okay,
Al Lee, I've got a comment,
okay,
and I've got a question.
all right.
Comment. What I have observed in the last 2 or 4 months, I just want it to be known, in my humble opinion, we've got somebody on staff that either has or is going to apply for the city manager's job. And I think it's quite obvious that Ella brings many years of experience. I like the way, what I've seen, especially this morning, how you've been proactive in trying, and along, obviously, with other council members, shining the light on how we spend our money here. I really like that. And my question is, at the last workshop, I believe it was that one, excuse me, you were asked about the set of numbers.
Yes, sir.
Now, I do understand that you're wearing at least more than one hat right now.
Yes, sir.
And when you commented that you did not have the numbers at that time, but you would have them by the end of the week, and you got a rather unflattering, terse response, which I found to be, could have been improved upon, the tone of how that question was asked. I did not appreciate it. I don't think that's how we want to get along up here, if you will. And that draws me to the heart of my question. And listening to you today, what you're doing. Mr. Mayor, Councilman, lady, have there been any considerations, or is there funding to look into the possibility of hiring a temporary temp until such time we could get the new city manager in place, and maybe looking for another person if it comes to this? In other words, to have a full staff, 3-5 staff office down there. From just little pieces I've picked up, she's working, I would gather, much longer on different projects than she had. And in thinking and not being privy to understanding everything that you folks are dealing with,
All right.
would it make sense, if there is the funding and an agreement to start with right there before we go anywhere, to look at a temp, so she might be in a position to handle some higher priority pieces of work in a more timely fashion? And I think I'm making myself quite clear. I am in no way criticizing
Oh, no, no.
what you have done in providing the council information they need, how you've conducted yourself here. You've been proactive, and I like that, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I say something? We actually have someone that has been helping us periodically within the office, and she will be coming back next week. We're trying to get some things straightened out in the office, as far as records. We're gonna be scanning everything. to have it online, that we can go in and access something, so we don't have to go back and just trace everything back by a sheet of paper. That's gonna be a time saver. Once we get everything scanned, and when you can access items that you need to, you go in, you put a keyword up, it comes up, you get right to it. That's a major time saver, and I think if we can get that done and get some organizational things established in the office that need to be upgraded, I think we'll be good. Yes, we are gonna have to have that third person full-time, you know, once they determine what they wish to do as far as the city manager, that's their choice. You know, and I'm trying to keep us above board. I'm trying to straighten out things as I go, so I'm not coming back fighting the battle again. So, you know, that's where I stand with that. And yes, I do plan to apply. But I just, you know, I'm just trying to keep us above board at this time, and I do appreciate the kind comments.
And I'd like to say, yes, there is money in the budget. Now that we're short one person, that allowed some money to be freed up for this person to help her. If that answers your budget question.
Jim?
Ella,
Yes, sir.
I was wondering if there's any provision in the budget to increase police pay so that we can fill the vacant position that apparently there hasn't been much interest in yet.
Yes, sir. This proposed budget increases the police department. It brings the starting salary up to $19 an hour. So we have included that, but we also have included another officer, which would mean, like I had stated, we would have the chief and 4 officers, is which would bring us back up to a fully staffed police department, so the chief can concentrate on his administrative duties that he's working on. And I think that is one of the major things as far as public safety that we definitely, you know, wanted to make sure was included, and it is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have one more question, if I may. In your choosing to add a vehicle to the city, please consider this. It seems that every time we have a snowstorm, somebody has a medical emergency. And as you purchase your next vehicle, it would be very helpful to have a good size 4-wheel drive that could get around in the snow, because we've had several emergencies where we've had to put somebody on the back of an SUV or whatever to get them out to the ambulance, because the ambulances can't make it around these roads. Just a consideration.
We have already considered and looked into, the
Thank
chief has looked into the vehicle, and now but we know what we're going to get.
Plus you've purchased chains for vehicles, so at least a vehicle can have snow chains.
But they can't go on these cars. We have now.
A vehicle, you know,
On that Subaru, the chains will not work because of the lowness of the.
I just said a vehicle, not the police cars, because if you're looking for a medical emergency, you would need
One
a
backup.
vehicle that would be able to move around and put the chains on. Another thing that, to address Mr. Horton's comments and to point out what Ella is dealing with here. And I'm not a city budget person. I'm not going to pretend to be. I don't understand the implications of certain things. So I try to simplify it in my mind. The revenue that we took in 2016 was $1,186,000. In 2017, $1,198,500. Anticipated 18, $1,181,000. Proposed for 19, $1,173,000. I use the term, we have a fixed income. as was pointed out earlier, health insurance, workers' comp, equipment costs, everything is going up, and yet our revenue is staying the same. Ella is dealing with a big problem trying to make all the numbers work. But I think everybody in the community has to understand that when you've got a fixed income and your costs go up, there are only certain things that you can do, and you really shouldn't be doing things that you don't need. And that's a personal thing on what you need and what you don't need. But spending $350,000 for nice things as opposed to things that we need, I personally, and I'm not speaking, I didn't discuss this with any council members, but I personally don't get it. People want police protection. People want garbage and water. Those are what I would consider a necessity. And I think we need to start looking at what it is that's important to us and work it within the revenue that we have. If we can get, as Mr. Horton is suggesting, additional revenue, as Mr. Durpo said, new homes being built, that changes the whole dynamics. But until that time, we're stuck with working within certain parameters, and we have to figure out what's important. That's where the community comes in. What's important to you? What do you have to have? If you don't have to have police protection, tell the chief goodbye. If you don't have to have your leaves sucked up and your ditches cleaned, tell James goodbye. But if you want that stuff, you have to prioritize. It's kind of like a trauma center. You're doing a triage. What's important and what can you put off? And I think we're missing it. I think it's been missed. And I think that what Ella's doing right now is trying to address it, put it out clearly and concisely to anybody who's interested in it, and then move forward.
Thank you.
I'd like to add a comment on top of that, and that is that SPLOST, as we just passed, and hopefully all the other cities have passed as well. Of course, it's still up to the voters now in March to approve it, and hopefully that'll happen. If that happens in March, the city of Sky Valley will not receive its first dollar of benefit until November 1st of 19, which makes it very difficult for us to budget this year because we have money that we may or may not have that we can use. The same thing with the service delivery strategy. Once that is taken care of, that will totally change the dynamics of our budget. And at the moment, we don't have a clue what items are or are not going to be, where we don't have the double taxation on it. You're not paying twice. So that'll certainly that will help Sky Valley as well. Again, those are numbers though that we just, don't have at the moment, so it does make it difficult on the budget.
Little woman.
Hi, I'm Barbara Kovacker, and I know that budgets, I want to commend you all for working together on this. I'm impressed, and I feel better about my taxes when I write out that check. For right now, we're talking about Sky Valley and marketing and maintenance and whatever. I would like to throw out an old idea that has been put on the shelf. Years ago, they talked about the new green post numbers for houses. Do you know what I'm talking about? They have a little gold SV on there. It's a green post with the things. The homeowner pays for it. Nobody talks about it anymore. I go down my street, there's some nice looking ones, and there's the white ones leaning over, tipped over. I think you can do a PR thing on let's get the signposts uniform, new, and nice. Second of all, I've got a neighbor on my street, the yard is a mess, the people are never there. I'm gonna write you a letter, I want you to come in and weed whack that thing and charge them. or tell them to hire somebody to clean it up. That's just should be done. I shouldn't have to live with neighbors with a junky yacht. Then, my other thing is, do we make money on recycling? No. Okay, all right. I thought we could get recycling, get them to do more, and we could make money. Forget it then. Okay, that's it. But I think I would like you to talk about some good, like trimming those trees that are hanging over all the roads. If you want people buying Sky Valley, by golly, you gotta trim those trees, you gotta get those posts so we look good. We gotta look good. Because, and you gotta fill those ditches with rocks where the water is eroding everything. And I know we don't have money and stuff, but maybe you could do it. Thank you.
On the recycling, you pay the city to pick up your recycling. We take it to Raven County and then they sell it to who they can sell it, but they can't always sell it all. Half of it ends up in a dump somewhere.
I know, I heard China is not buying anymore.
Yeah, a lot of the plastic used to go to the carpet plants
That's right.
around here. I guess it still does, but that used to be the biggest thing they could actually sell and get rid of was the plastic.
But we don't pay to dump.
Dispose of it.
Now get those signs.
Well, I
I save on the garbage side of the recycle what it is, because they don't charge us to put it in the landfill.
Oh.
So it's free, whatever we can take down on that recycle truck. We don't
So we're
charge.
reducing our
We're saving on
costs.
the garbage end.
We're
We was
reducing
doing
our
garbage.
costs.
What, I'm sorry.
We're reducing our costs of building. Okay, well then
By
that
the
is
ton,
making
by the
money.
pound is what you
it's
charge.
not profitable, but it is,
Well, no,
it is, it's neutral.
Barbara,
Huh,
we've looked into, since we didn't have a bucket truck and stuff, we've looked into hiring a tree man to come in
good.
for a 30-day trial. And we've got, what, one bid, two bids? And,
Good.
but we gotta wait until we get this budget so we can pay him.
Ah, okay,
Then we're gonna bring him in.
okay.
He's gonna spend 30 days or 100 hours?
100 hours.
100 hours.
Good for
And
you,
then-
Bob
And then to
McNair.
see how far he goes, and if he,
Good.
if he can do the whole Sky Valley, including your street.
Well, and then I just want to say, I think positive is so much more productive than negative. Negative is worthless. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any more comments from the crowd?
Oh, trying to get up. Getting harder every year. On the tree business, I'd like to make a positive comment. I called Ron one day because a tree fell down across my road. And, you know, I went down there and tried to move it, but I couldn't. So I called Ron and he said, okay, we'll take care of it. You got the guy that was in the city, this was Saturday. And got the guy and they were up there and within an hour they had the tree cut out of the road and off. So my main comment in response to that is, I don't mind paying taxes as long as I pay taxes to Sky Valley for those kind of services. Because that's why people want to live here. Not because some of these other things that we have to spend money on, but I think the important part is the services that we provide as a city are good, and I'm thankful for it.
Is there any more from the council? Have any more questions?
No,
No.
you can't vote.
I'd like to have a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much for coming.
Right, immediately after. That was just.